We finally did it. I know you've been convinced that good climate news just doesn't happen. It's just one long, inevitable, slow-moving, world-changing apocalypse. But in the immortal words of Inigo Montoya, world, you did something right. When it comes to climate, we almost always hear news that's depressing. But today, we have good news. Last week, the international climate community released 7 new pathways for our climate change future, and they scrapped the absolute worst possible scenario because it's no longer plausible. We did something right! Kind of. What is the worst exactly? Well, for the last 15 years, whenever you read a terrifying headline about 4.5 degrees Celsius of warming by 2100, scientists were citing the worst possible scenario, called RCP 8.5 or SSP 585. This was the scientists' worst-case assumption that humanity would do absolutely nothing to curb emissions, and instead, tripled down on burning coal and fossil fuels until the end of the century. Like, if every country was like, hold my beer, and started rolling coal like idiots. And luckily for us, it's only a small group of mostly Americans doing that. Instead, the massive worldwide exponential rollout of solar and wind power generation, plus the adoption of electric vehicles, have fundamentally bent the trajectory of global emissions in a good way. Our collective action has successfully averted the absolute worst case future. Of course, the second worst case, the 3.5 degrees of warming, that's still possible. Just not 4.5 degrees of warming. And 3.5 would still be pretty catastrophic. Global warming is still speeding up right now, and statistically we're already warmer than we used to be, and we're seeing the effects of that. Warmer, wetter air in the tropics is causing a once-in-a-century storm almost yearly, and the hotter, drier air in the deserts is causing oven-like temperatures, and the average sea levels are rising. The polar air, typically held back by the jet stream, is drifting lower, causing extra cold winters and dry ones in some places and super heavy wet ones in others. Furthermore, because we acted too slowly to actually curb emissions, scientists also removed the most optimistic best case scenario from their models, and scenarios, the one where we only hit 1.5 Celsius. You know, we did good, but we could have done better. Scientists are going to keep track and keep updating those models as we act, because whatever we do is going to change them, just like they did in this case. So we did great, but solid B, silver star. The ultimate takeaway: the future isn't a fixed track we're stuck on. Facts on the ground, they change. We didn't solve the problem yet. But we proved that we can change things, that human policies and technologies can effectively and actively change our fate. Does this give you a little bit of hope? Let me know, and we'll see you in a slightly less warm future. We changed my fate. How can people not, Merida.